Hey guys, it's Micah. So I just want to begin this video apologizing for how late this vlog is. It is intentionally late just because this is covering sensitive and tough information regarding the incident with racial profiling that happened at Santa Clara University on August 22nd. But it is a very important subject to cover just to bring more awareness to the incident and also to bring awareness to the fact that this is an ongoing reality and problem and issue in America that has been extraordinarily highlighted in 2020, but it is a problem that has been persistent since the beginning of this nation. And so I think it's very appropriate that we discuss and talk about these issues now as they come up so that we can learn from these mistakes and create a more equitable future. I just want to begin by reading Santa Clara University's Community and Diversity section of their mission statement, which is, "We cherish our diverse and inclusive community of students, faculty, staff, administrators, and alumni, a community that is enriched by people of different backgrounds, respectful of the dignity of all its members, enlivened by open communication and caring and just towards others." So I just wanted to read this mission statement just so that we can help hold the university accountable for its actions, because what we just witnessed and what I will go into a little bit more in detail soon after is exactly the opposite of this, and we need to make sure that those in power are held responsible, that these aren't just words on a screen, that these aren't just words in a mission statement, that this is a reality for all those who come into contact with Santa Clara University. So in regards to the incident, it was a campus safety racial profiling incident. That was Dr. Morgan and her brother who were profiled and harassed by campus security police. So just beginning with the first thread of tweets, Dr. Morgan says, "Santa Clara University security just harassed me and my brother and forced me, a faculty member, to show my campus ID to prove I lived in the house where I opened the door. My brother strictly quarantined for 14 days to come and see me and my children after 8 months apart. I woke up early and happy this morning for the first time in a long time. He had a work meeting at 8:30, and so he went to campus to sit outside with his books and computer. SCU is beautiful. It's specifically designed so that students, faculty, and staff have the opportunity to work outside, take pictures, and have the scene as a backdrop." The next tweet reads, "Campus security came to my brother in the midst of his meeting and told him to move along. He's been black his whole life, so he said okay. Then they followed him. He moved toward the street which he thought was no longer on campus. They told him to leave. By this point, there were 4 campus security cars. One officer followed him to my house. I opened the door and my brother said, 'I'm so sorry about this. They're demanding you to come out and vouch for me.' I, of course, knew exactly who they were. When I came out, the officer very aggressively demanded to see my campus ID to prove you are who you say you are and that you actually live here. I went back inside to get my ID and get my husband. Probably important to note that my husband is white. We both came out and he kept creeping towards us all. We asked that he socially distance, and he finally stopped after we moved back quite a bit. He asked to see my ID and my husband said that I wasn't obligated to show it. The guy called his supervisor. I asked what the issue was and he said my brother was in the bushes and it was suspicious and they thought he might have been homeless. I asked why I needed to show my ID at my own home. He said, well, it's not your home. The university owns it. I told him that I was one of 7 black faculty in the College of Arts and Sciences and that our student body population is 2% black. I told them that the anti-blackness they espouse and practice is part of the reason why. I also told them that white students have been running around maskless, banging on houses on the street at midnight and smoking weed from apples on campus, and this is apparently just what happens. But my brother is a threat. My husband told him that this was anti-blackness and was despicable. He told them that they don't harass anyone white on campus ever. He told them they only harass black students and faculty and that following him to a second and third location was punitive. Our neighbor came out at this point to walk his dog. My husband asked if they wanted to check our neighbor's ID and they said no, of course not. He said that's exactly the point. Our neighbor came over when I shouted, hey, can you vouch for the fact that I live here? He did, and when he waited outside closely and watched the entire time. My husband asked why they brought 4 cars, and he said for safety. He asked for whose safety, and they said the officer's safety. He told them that he didn't care about their safety and was concerned about his brother-in-law's safety. At this point, they told us they didn't have any guns on them, so my brother wasn't in danger. I was aghast that they explained that he wasn't in danger because they weren't armed, not because he wasn't a threat or because they wouldn't hurt him, but because they couldn't. At this point, I told them that their stance and responses were exactly why we need to abolish the police and immediately divest from City Police Department on campus. My husband asked what what, to their mind, we should do to not be harassed and followed. They said, stay in open spaces. That answer is unclear and insufficient, and I am concerned now to go back to campus and to live in this house. I am so angry. Academia proves over and over it doesn't love me. I don't think I love it back anymore. So pretty much what happened, and you can read this in a Washington Post article, is that Professor Dr. Morgan and her brother were harassed by campus security police and forced to show their ID to prove that they lived in the house. And when asked if they would do this to their neighbors, who presumably are white, the police officers respond, of course not. And this just highlights the problem, the issue with this racial profiling, with these microaggressions that people of color, Black people specifically, are singled out for being more suspicious, for sitting on a bench and trying to conduct a Zoom call, or for living in university housing where there's only 2% of the community who is Black. And so there are a lot of problems that surround the campus security. One of the problems that was highlighted was that recently during COVID-19, there has been a lot of students, white students primarily, who live on Bellamy or on Market Street, who have been doing drugs, smoking, and just like not social distancing, doing things that could actually be harmful to the community, and how they haven't been stopped. And a Facebook post that I recently read just brought awareness to the fact that campus security is not being held to the same standard that Santa Clara students are expected to be held to. Before becoming a student at Santa Clara University, you have to go through microaggression, racial profiling, racial bias training. You watch all these videos, you become like certified in knowing how to conduct yourself in a way that is respectful towards others, which we see is clearly not being practiced by the police and by campus security, which works closely with the Santa Clara Police Department. One thing that was also brought up in this Facebook post that I read really calls out this inequality of accountability and responsibility between student staff and the CSS officers. I'm just going to read this post, but it's aimed at the school, at the administration, just asking a fair question. When are you going to hold your CCS officers accountable for their actions? As a community facilitator who has seen and heard the problems with CSS, it's embarrassing. Also, there is a Barstool video of CSS officers playing beer die with students. It really shows the values that SCU has set in stone. They expect their students to be held to a high standard, especially the leaders on campus. But when they hold community facilitators more accountable than CSS officers, it shows where their interests lie. SCU takes immediate actions upon community facilitators who do this, but ignore the CSS officers who are partaking in this behavior. When CFs are immediately fired for this behavior and no action is taken towards a suspension or firing off officers, it hurts us all. I'm praying for Dr. Morgan and her family during this time, as I cannot begin to imagine what they're going through. And this person did link below President Kevin O'Brien's apology letter, which says that the university will respond with racial sensitivity training for the officers, which, I don't know, it feels inadequate, especially for a school that like indoctrinates social justice, and that the fact that these problems with these officers are ongoing and haven't been addressed and aren't being addressed until an incident this bad happens. Any campus can champion social, racial diversity, but it really comes down to practice, and things like these, incidences like these, it really expose the flaws or the disconnect between the say and the do, between the mission statement and the actual mission that happens on campus. It's sad and embarrassing to see that we teach one thing to our students and we expect another lesser thing of those in authority. It's embarrassing that it feels like students go through more training about racial bias, racial profiling, microaggressions than these officers, and we don't have any authority over any other students, and the authority plus a lack of training really just culminates into a very dangerous set of circumstances that result in these types of incidences which Dr. Morgan unfortunately experienced, and just highlights the fact that racism happens everywhere. This happens at a Jesuit school. It just shows how deeply ingrained into society racism is, and how it's going to take a lot more than our words and thoughts to change this. It's going to take systemic institutional change for these incidences to stop happening or happen at a less frequent rate. And so on the SCU Multicultural Center Instagram, you can find ways to get involved and to learn what steps you can take in response to the campus safety racial profiling incident. First, you can sign the petition created by Stephen Diamond, who is an SCU law professor. It is linked in the bio of the MCC Instagram. You can show up at community conversations this coming Tuesday from 12:10 to 1:15 Pacific Standard Time on Zoom. To support Dr. Morgan, you can pre-order her book titled Laughing to Keep from Dying. You can also call the representatives, and the phone number for the CSS Director, Phil Beltran, is 805-554-4113. The phone number for the Title IX Director, Belinda Guthrie, is 408-554-4113. And the CSS non-emergency line is 408-554-4441. Or you can send a DM message to @AcademiaLovesYou to show support for Dr. Morgan. Here's a script of what you can say when calling these numbers. Again, it is on the multicultural Instagram of SCU. Here's a script for the voicemail or for an operator. I am shocked and disappointed by the latest incident of discrimination and unfair treatment towards a beloved member of the SCU faculty community by campus safety officers. In addition to a fully transparent third-party investigation into the events of August 22nd, I am demanding that the officers involved be held accountable and substantive action be taken in the immediate future to regain the trust of students and faculty of color. I am also demanding an audit of the campus safety budget to be made available to the SCU community for evaluation given the chronic underfunding of mental health services on campus. So all this information can be found on the Instagram of the Multicultural Center of SCU, and really making a difference now is what we can do. Unfortunately, we can't reverse this situation, but we can prevent it from happening to another one of our 7 Black faculty members, or we can prevent it from happening to our 2% of Black students on campus, and from the future of SCU to help us to learn from this mistake, recognizing that our social justice failed Dr. Morgan and her family, and we have to take responsibility for the incident in order for us to be able to move forward and create change in the Santa Clara University community, in Santa Clara's police department. With that being said, that wraps up this week's vlog. I know it was a heavy subject. I know that it was very sensitive material, and I really hope that I did justice to Dr. Morgan and her family, or Professor Morgan and her family, and yeah. Anyways, with that, that's the end of this vlog, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you. Don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the like button, turn on the notification bell, and I'll see you guys next week.